Welcome, everyone, to A Gathering Place, brought to you by the Gullah-Geechee Chamber of Commerce, with me, your host, Marilyn Hemingway, and we have a very special guest back today, Miss Twanja Windley, who is an author, and we've had her on before, and we wanted to bring her back so she can talk about her new book, Becoming Healed, why she wrote it, what drove her to write her second book. And we're also going to talk about the Windley Foundation, the foundation she started, its mission, why she started it, what led her in her journey to start this foundation, and also how we can support the foundation. So we're going to jump right in it as we bring 2021 to an end with a good word from Miss Windley. And of course, we'll see you right after our opening.
Hello, I'm Marilyn Hemingway, and welcome to A Gathering Place. I said, I'm stepping back because we have young voices who want to be heard, and they're moving on something.
Branding is really important to you and your business.
Even a basic type of technology, you learn it all.
And people are
Good question.
Welcome back, and let's just get right to it as we welcome Miss Twanja Windley to A Gathering Place. Twanja, welcome back to A Gathering Place. How are you doing?
Thank you so very much for bringing me back on again. I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good.
Well, you're looking wonderful because I think we both got the memo to wear red today.
It's the holiday season.
It's the holiday season.
That's it.
Very good. You're looking wonderful, and we are delighted to have you back because I really received such positive feedback from the last time you were on regarding the show and just the words that were spoken. And I just want to just get right into it and encourage everyone before we get right into it. Please drop your questions and comments in the comment section because we want to hear from you, our viewing audience, on this last show for 2021. It's the last show for 2021, and we just want to wish everybody a happy holiday season. But Twanja, tell us about your book, Becoming Healed. What led you to write this book?
Well, you know what? When I was on the show the first time and I was promoting my other book, Another Level, How Changing Your Mindset Helps to Change Your Circumstances, I got so much good feedback from that book. And because I talked about healing and a little bit about my healing process and the journey. And people were just wanting to know more about, they were asking questions about what that process looked like. And they just started talking about their situations and how they could relate. And so I wanted to go a little bit deeper into my journey and talk about what led me to that. Like I went through a program that helped me to dig deeper and to find out the root cause of the pain that I was carrying. And so a lot of times I found the people, and just by them sharing their circumstances or their situation, they were just stating how even though sometimes that they feel healed or they don't feel anything at all, those things still arise. It comes back. And so I had to learn that even though that the pain is gone, it could still be there. So pain buried alive is not dead. And that was something that was shocking to me too, because as I was going through my process in the very beginning, I felt okay. And I thought that I was over some certain things, but I wasn't until I got to the root of those causes. And so just going through a whole healing process for like 1 year. And I'm not talking about just painting my nails and just getting over things or journaling, that type of stuff. I mean, digging deeper and seeking counseling and sharing my journey with other people and allowing them to share their information, what they were going through, so that I could relate and see exactly where I was in my process.
Your timing could not be better. I just left a lunch meeting where we talked about the individual creating a healing journey, getting on a healthy journey. We talked about a holistic view, and we also talked about addressing the root causes of our trauma.
Right.
We all too often we think short term. I can't remember any examples right now. We really had this really in-depth conversation at lunch, so it's like fascinating that you're now talking using those same terms, and how one of the things we did discuss is how we address the surface
Right.
issue, but we don't go to the root cause. And I brought up, one of my heroes passed this week, Bishop Desmond Tutu, and he is famous for a quote of, I'm paraphrasing, but stop pulling the people out of the river when we need to go to the head of the river and find out why they're falling in.
Wow.
And it speaks to the root cause. Why are people drowning in the river? Well, you got to go to the head of the river to find out why they even fell in or jumped into the river. And it's a very famous quote of his that I've seen this week in his passing. He's one of my heroes. So I'm fascinated and just really, it's profound to hear you speak about the root cause. Why do you think we don't address the root causes of our trauma, of the hurt, the brokenness, and we just deal with surface issues?
I honestly think that it's just a lack of knowledge and a lack of understanding, because before I went on this journey, I really didn't understand. Like I just thought that, okay, I could fix this, or because I've forgiven someone that I'm over it. And then later on, I found myself one particular circumstance. I was angry at someone for something, and then I said, okay, I can't get past this. I mean, I'm gonna get past this, but I'm just gonna leave it alone. I'm not gonna feel anything. So you think that if I say, okay, I forgive you, that it's okay, and I move along, so I have no feelings, until you have that bad thought in your mind about. It was at a point where I said, I just can't wait for them to get back what they gave me. You're looking for that person to suffer. That's not healing. And then when I caught that, I said, okay, wait a minute. I'm not healed because I'm still holding something over them. I'm waiting for their downfall, for them to get back what they gave me. And I'm just like, that's not how God wants it to be. And I knew when the Holy Spirit told me that in order for me to reach that next level in my life, or where I'm asking God to take me, that I needed to clear some things. My mind and my head needed to be in the right space. And going in that direction, I definitely wasn't there. Even in relationships, or even parent issues or whatever, a lot of times people cut people off, or they think that's right. Like, you don't have to do this with your family members, or carry that baggage into the next season, or that type of stuff. And it's okay to cut people off. But we fail to realize is that people have baggage that they picked up from someone else, in their childhood. And until we understand deeply, what's really going on, or where that stuff stemmed from, we can't move forward, and we can't forgive those people, because we're just holding on to something. It's like an ongoing cycle that we just don't know how to release. So I really feel like people, you have to dig really deep into it to really figure out that there's more than what the eye sees.
So what steps do you discuss this in the book? What steps, or trigger, for lack of a better term, that would allow us to dig deep?
You know what? I gave an example, and this one's very simple. One time I had this altercation with one of my brothers. It was very, very simple, very petty. And so what I did was, I was like, okay, why am I still angry? Why am I still angry at this situation? And so even I went backtrack, and I apologized for my behavior, and I apologized for the things that I said. But I knew that there was something wrong, because the anger that I felt was so unnecessary. And it was just like, why do I feel this? And then it clicked to me, when we were growing up as kids, we always we always had to share, or someone always needed something, or someone always took something. And so that part of my childhood was in my adulthood. And so when he didn't give me back something, well, he did give it back to me, but when I felt like he wronged me, I was still holding on to something that was from my childhood. Had I not known any better, I would be like, okay, well, I've forgiven the situation. But every time I would be around him, I would still feel some type of way, but I just didn't let it go. I felt like there's something wrong inside of me that made me feel this type of way. And so I need to figure out exactly what was really going on inside of me.
It takes some self-introspection. It takes quietness, I think. Also, I think we got into this a little bit the last time you were on the show, and I probably said this example then, but I have found that the journey I am on, and I use the term journey because we will never be 100% mentally, emotionally, and physically healthy, because that's life. But what we can do as human beings is take self-introspection, take quiet time to look at ourselves, to study ourselves, to understand, how do I place myself on a healthy journey? What do I need to do to start this healthy journey? Because I think once we start an individual healthy journey, it will then become where we have a healthy home. Yes. A healthy home leads to a healthy neighborhood. A healthy neighborhood leads to a healthy community. A healthy community leads to a healthy nation. A healthy nation leads to a healthy world.
Right.
So I say all that to say it starts on our individual journeys to recognize that we all have flaws, brokenness, wisdom, joy. It's the yin and the yang that work together. And once we recognize this and start that, hey, I own this journey that I'm on, you will be amazed at what opens up.
Yes.
And I think what it means is recognizing the humanity within ourselves will allow you to see the humanity in others.
Yeah.
Giving ourselves grace so you can give grace to others.
Right.
But until we start that becoming healthy, we will constantly have this strife. We see it playing out now in the United States. And globally, because politically, etc. But it really does take us getting on that healthy journey as an individual. And your thoughts?
You know what? I absolutely agree with you. One thing that I found, because I did a lot of group sessions, and in the beginning, it was, I don't want to say it was terrifying, but it was a little bit harder in the beginning to open up and share with people, what you were going through. But once you start hearing other people's story and realizing that those people are just like you, and they want to be healed, because a lot of times people put up walls and barriers, and they just say, okay, I don't want to share. If you find a safe place with safe people, it allows you to become a little bit more vulnerable, open up and share. Because I always feel like if I sit in the corner and I don't say anything, I'm not taking that first step. Even though the first step was me getting there, but the next step would be for me to open up and be able to share. Once I start to get into that place, I know that I'm on the beginning of the journey that I'm looking to be on. And I think a lot of times people don't have safe people that they could, or a safe space that they could go to and be able to talk about what's going on, in the fear of their information getting back out, or people talking about them, or the judgment. And that's just how it is with society, or in the world of social media. People are afraid to say what's truth because of the judgment, or what other people are going to think. And a lot of times, even when I share my healing journey, a lot of times people are so quick to respond when I already know that they're not where they need to be. But it's almost like they feel like they're okay, but knowing that they're not okay, but they aren't open enough to say, I understand exactly where you are because I've been there too, or I'm in that same space. It's more of, well, I'll just pretend like I'm in a good space and I'll just amen you in the corner, or I'll say something back to you, or I'll give some feedback knowing that they're not in a good space as well too.
I'm so glad that you wrote this book, because when you talk about a safe space, I would think this space is not just a room where people gather. Space is reading a book. Space is listening to music. Space is spending time with yourself. Space is spending time with others. But you're correct in saying, I agree with you. I agree with you saying people need to feel safe, but that's why it's so important that I think we recognize that we create that safe space for ourselves, to recognize the journey we're on allows us to create the safe space for others. I think, and I did find that quote from Archbishop Desmond Tutu. I'm going to put that up because I think that's, in a way, that's what he's talking about. That's what he's also talking about. Also, there comes a point where we need to stop just pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. He's talking about being active and not only pulling them out of the river, but stopping and thinking about what are we really dealing with here, then going up and addressing why they're falling in. And that means that's active. That's being proactive and creating a space where people feel safe, that you could pull them out of the river, if you will. And I just have always loved this quote. And one thing aside, I want to say this very quickly, since we're Georgetown connected and everything, and I'm in Georgetown right now, is that a lot of people don't realize Bishop Desmond Tutu used to spend a lot of time in Georgetown. Oh. His best friend lived in Georgetown. And I knew this because in the early 2000s, we did a 2-week festival welcoming the Amistad replica, the Amistad ship. We welcomed the replica and we tied in our Gullah Geechee local Black history. And his best friend was part of that effort at Episcopal Church like he was. And he lived in Georgetown. And Bishop Desmond Tutu would come to Georgetown quietly and walk around Georgetown, and no one knew who he was. And that's why he would come to Georgetown, because he could get away from that worldly pressure that he was under, this world famous man. And let's be honest, he was just another Black man walking around Georgetown.
He was in a safe space.
He was in a safe space. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, he was in a safe space, and he would come in Georgetown, stay with his best friend, who was also in the church with him, and just spend quiet time in Georgetown. So I just wanted to give that little tidbit that his friend provided that safe space for him. Isn't that? And Georgetown, touched global history and was not even aware of it. And I just wanted to mention that, since that quote is just so profound for what we're talking about. So tell me more about the book. What in the book do you want folks to take away from it beyond what we've already talked about?
There are a lot of stories, real stories in there, and I don't want to take away from people reading the book, but there are a lot of real stories and real situations in there about people who have been maybe molested in the past, and then they're still holding on to that. People who've lost family members and never talked about it, and you see, like you're in a one story, there's a family, and one of the parents lost a sibling at some point in their lives, and it was unheard of. No one knew about it, nothing. So it was years later, once they found out that they actually had an uncle that passed away, and never even knew, and their father never even mentioned that the fact that he had a baby brother that passed away. And so it was more of, when you think about it, it's just like that. You realize, okay, hold on a second. You think about the trauma that they faced. If he held that in that long, then that means that pain was carried from his childhood up into his adulthood. When you see someone that's isolated and doesn't talk, and a lot of times we say, oh, I'm an introvert and I don't say anything. And then you think, oh, my father's an introvert because he doesn't. But then no, he wants to be in complete silence because there's something more going on inside of him. Now you understand why the noise that comes, like when there's a lot of noise, there's things going on around him, in the way that he responds and he reacts to it, then you notice, okay, well, this is the reason why this person is that way. Or as someone who's been, there's a story about a young person who was taken away from their mother, and then she thought that her mother didn't want her in her life, and then she goes off and becomes this promiscuous girl, and then she drops out of high school. Her mom finally gets her back. She turns on her mother because she felt like her mother didn't love her. I mean, these are real raw stories in there. And so I wanted to be able to show it, because sometimes we see people and we see their situation or their circumstances, but we don't know what the root cause of those things are. So a lot of times we see our parents as damaged and this, and they bring this into our lives and we cut them off, but we don't know what their lives look like before we were there, or what about someone who's having a baby and they were going to have an abortion, and then they decide not to have an abortion because they weren't able to take care of that, and then they just go, or they had an abortion a year before and they decide to have that baby, and so that baby is feeling everything that mother felt, because she didn't know where she was. She was in a situation and didn't know how to handle it. It allows us to be more lenient towards people and non-judgmental, because we don't understand what people's lives were. And again, the Bible tells us not to judge people, and that just clicks for me, because I don't know what my parents' life was like before my life. And if they don't talk about that, and if we don't ask those questions, we'll never know. I don't know what my grandmother's life was like before I was here. And if she never told me, then of course I wouldn't know. So it changed my whole perspective about life, just listening to people and understanding. And just by going on my own healing journey, it allowed me to, when I listen to people, I can hear their story by listening to the words that they say. It's easier for me to pull, because it makes me think, wow, well, this person had to feel this in this situation. So it makes me want to cover people more versus telling you hear something and then you want to run it and tell it, that kind of stuff, when you know that a person is hurting inside. So it brings more awareness. I talked about the baggage of life, carrying other people's baggage, because now you've taken on stuff that's coming down the pipeline, or the roots from your family members that you had no clue. But until you figure out, what's going on inside of you, you have to link that back to your parents or to their parents, that type of stuff. And then once you start to deal with it, you cut it off, and it doesn't go to the next generation. Also, when you become healed, or at least when I became healed, once I started my healing journey, how my life turned around, how things changed in my life.
I'm glad you mentioned two things. And so I'll start towards the end when you say stopping that generational, cycles. I was speaking to someone, and it wasn't as what we're necessarily talking about now, but it's kind of the same thing, where I was in a meeting and I said to someone, you pass along generational wealth, but you also pass along generational poverty. I think for us, our discussion today is understanding you can also pass along generational trauma. And then that leads me to, and that cycle can be broken, but it goes back to what we were discussing earlier in this conversation. Taking that time, that quietness, whether you pray in the closet, that meditation. I also think, my question is, do you think people realize not judging is proactive? It's an actual action step. It's not, oh, I don't judge you. I see you do something and I'm not going to judge you. It literally, to not judge someone is action. You have to take action. It's a proactive step. It's not just enough to say, oh, I'm not judging you. You literally have to take action. And that action is probably going to start with yourself first, and recognizing you may have some bias within you. You may have, as you say, not recognizing where people are, not recognizing that we all have history, family history that's playing a part in the decisions and actions we take. Your thoughts regarding that?
You know what? I've actually, and I was thinking about this while you were talking, I've had a friend that in the past, like I've had a situation and I felt like they judged me when I was going through that situation. And so happened, it turned around and they were in the exact situation. And immediately when they were going through it, I didn't want to be there for them. I didn't want to talk about it. I just wanted to back away, and I felt like they should deal with it themselves. And I could tell that that person was reaching for me, and I didn't want to reach back. I didn't. And then I realized that, okay, one, there's still some unresolved issues inside of me with that situation. But then I also felt like she reached out to me because she needed a safe person and a safe place where she could be naked and not ashamed. She could tell her truth and still receive love, even though she didn't give that. Because sometimes we reap what we sow. But I felt like in that moment, I need to cover her and I needed to give her love back. So instead of just walking away, even though I still had to slowly pace myself, I had to realize where she was and not judge her, even though I felt like she judged me. But I still needed to cover her because that's exactly what we're supposed to do. You cover people in love, in prayer, and then you help them to get through whatever it is that they're going through.
Very good, exactly. And I think those are words well spoken. Yeah, I think those are words well spoken, and I hope that our viewing audience will take them to heart. I want to remind everyone that you're watching A Gathering Place, and please drop your questions and comments for Miss Twanja Windley in our comment section so we can get to those. And thank you for those who've already dropped those questions and comments in there. So at the bottom of the screen, we have scrolling twindofoundation.org. So I want to ask you first, before we get into the foundation, where do we go to purchase your book?
Well, my book it hasn't been released yet. It's
Okay.
to be announced for the date, but it will be on my website, twindlepublication.com.
Okay.
And the release date will be on there pretty soon.
All right, very good. So we're going to encourage everyone to go to twindlepublication.com. But before I put that up, let's go ahead and talk about Twindo Foundation. Tell us about Twindo Foundation and why did you start it and what is its mission?
You know what? You nailed it on the head just a few minutes ago. You were talking about people leaving generational wealth. The Twindo Foundation was created to promote wealth through real estate. And so it's so that people will be able to leave some type of legacy through real estate to gain to create generational wealth for their family. But I created the Twindo Foundation as a realtor. What I found that it's very hard for the minority community to purchase a home for home ownership. And so as I work with my clients, there has been some challenges and some stumbling blocks in student loan debt. And that's been a national conversation for some time now, because we see that President Biden has been talking about, the cancellation of student loan debt. And now we see that there are some people that their debt are being canceled, but there are a lot of people who debt aren't being canceled. And that has been definitely a hindrance in the Black community, because, we've heard, go to college and get an education so that we can make more money. But then there's also that debt that comes along with it. And what happens when you graduate from college and you don't make the money that you need to be able to pay off that debt or to be able to save money for a home. So now you have a high debt to income ratio, and it's definitely a stumbling block. It's a hindrance for minorities to be able to purchase a house. And so I created the Twindo Foundation to educate people on financial literacy, on home ownership, the buying process, that type of stuff. And then also we wanted to help to find a solution. So we created a scholarship that to help people to pay for college so that they could come out of school with less debt. So earlier this year, was our first scholarship award, which was an amount of $5,000. And I'll just say this, and I'm not bragging or anything like that, because I really believe in what I'm doing. And I believe that we can change the narrative of our story. Like, I want to be able to help people, because student loan debt was a problem for me. That was a big hiccup for me when I was purchasing my first home. And so, and what I did was I had to, in order to overcome my debt to income ratio with my student loan debt, I had to just tell myself, hey, I'm gonna have to go out there and make more money. And I did. And so the next year I went out there and so I was able to, but not everybody can work for themselves, or not everyone don't have that cap on them. You know, they don't have that limitation. So it's, what do you do? So when we provide the scholarship, I wanted to sow into what I believed in. I wanted to sow into people because I believe in them. I wanted to sow into minorities because I believe that our stories could change. So I paid the first scholarship out of my pocket. I gave the $5,000 for the first student. I mean, for the first award for the student. And in the future, we're looking to do $50,000 a year for at least for the next 20 years. So I want to be able to do $1 million within the next 20 years.
Very good. Congratulations. And I think it's definitely a worthy cause. Y'all, we have the website up. We've been scrolling at the bottom of the screen the entire show. So if you are moved to support what Ms. Twanja Windley is doing, please go and donate. We encourage you to do that and go to the website and learn more about what she's doing. So let's get into your why and the mission. Love that you're addressing student loan debt, home ownership, but there's also the bigger picture here. And you were talking about how it impacted you purchasing your first home, for example. And I think I shared on Facebook today a story from CNN about the great resignation that's going on, that first young people were being blamed. Oh, you don't want to work because they're giving you all this money,
Right.
COVID, the support, canceling student loans. Now they've extended that to the 1st of May.
Right.
But what they're finding out now, the statistics, the data is showing it's the great retirement. 50 and older folks are retiring. And I'm bringing this up because it ties in what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, that we are all dealing with trauma, brokenness, etc. That a lot of people are quitting because they're just tired of working for the man and working and not making any money. There's a huge wealth gap. There's a huge income gap. And I think in the story, I was trying to look for it while you were talking and listen to you also. The Black households, we have maybe $17,000 in assets and wealth, and white families on average median is like $130,000 or $180,000, something like that. But it's six figures, right?
Yes,
over 100,000. And that even if we worked steadily at $7.25 an hour, it would take over 100 years to close that gap. So basically, you're telling us we're gonna never close that gap with the system that we are working in right now. The system has to change.
Exactly.
But going back, how does that system change? Individuals are going to have to get knowledge. You said something about lack of knowledge. We're going to have to get some knowledge, folks. Knowledge of history, knowledge of systems, knowledge of institutions, but also knowledge of self. Knowledge to get on that healthy path. And it goes back, you as an individual get on a healthy journey, your household will get on a healthy journey, then your community, nation, and so on. This student loan forgiveness is actually a prime example. It's not just I'm in debt because of these student loans, it's the impact of being in debt to those student loans. But how do you change that? Because a system was created to put people in debt. And this is just Maryland speaking now. It's like, you're in debt, you're actually enslaved. You're enslaved to the bank, enslaved to whoever you owe that debt to. So how do you change that? First, understand the systems, then understand yourself. Where am I, and how can I play a role in changing this? And it's fascinating how you, Miss Twanja Windley, have tied the threads together through your book, Becoming Healed, and then this foundation. So you're not just saying, here is the problem. You are also offering solutions.
Exactly.
And that is tremendous. I would love to hear from our viewing audience. What do you think about that? Your thoughts regarding this. But Twanja, tell me your thoughts. As you were writing the book, as you were creating this foundation, were you thinking in those terms, or did it come to you as you were going through the steps?
You know what? Absolutely not. I was not thinking about this. I actually have a team. I have a PR manager, and we worked we worked on this, creating this foundation, and we worked on it for like 6 months, just gathering the data, putting the information together, building the website, that type of stuff. I started writing the book right after I got the foundation up. I mean, everything going with the foundation. So it really came afterwards, but the book really came from, it was kind of like a spin-off from the book that I released last year. So it was more, but God work in amazing ways. Like he ties things together and we never see it until it comes. And had you not said this, I don't think that I would have even pieced this together. So no, I didn't. It was just like, I think all things work out for our good. And I think it just worked out that way.
Very good. I'm glad to hear it. This is why we have a gathering place. And I tell my guests when we come on, it's a conversation. And when we have these conversations, and Jackie's watching, that's who I had lunch with today. And I was telling you, it's so to use the terminology that you've been using. And we had this conversation at our lunch meeting. You offer these safe spaces. You offer these spaces where people can just talk, and we learn from each other.
Right.
And hopefully our viewing audience is also learning also. I had a friend on within the last 2 weeks. It was the African American intellectual tradition. And we were talking about organic intellectuals, and then like the academics, except those who went on and got their PhDs. But in the African American Black community, Gullah Geechee community, which is a subset of African American culture. Actually, it's not a subset. Gullah Geechee culture community is actually a foundational culture for African American culture. So let me make sure we're clear on that. But within the context of those communities, we have always had intellectualism, and that would include the organic intellectualism demonstrated on a gathering place where we have conversations and people bring their knowledge to the table, and in the conversation we gain more knowledge. That's intellectualism. And it is intellectualism allows you to grow, allows you to gain knowledge, allows you to recognize resources. And I say all this to say Miss Windley is a resource for the community because of her personal journey. And she manifests that by writing her books. And now the next level is starting a foundation. So I say all this to say, I'm so happy you're on the show.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate it. And I think that it's imperative that when we leave our community or our home place, that we go out and we receive knowledge and wisdom. But I think that it's important that we take back what we've learned to our people so that we could help them to change their lives as well too. And so that's exactly what I've been trying to be, a resource to people. Because when I sit down with my people of color, or and I'm talking with them about credit check and just financial situations, it's like sometimes people, they don't know, they don't understand, and I'm puzzled. I mean, there are things that I don't understand, and there's things that I don't know, but I continue to seek. So at every level, there's something that someone doesn't know. But it's challenging because now you're trying to help people dismantle things that they've been taught or that they've learned, and so you're trying to help them to learn new things and do things a certain type of way. And I was going to say this every year, and this is going to be something that we're going to do. The Twindo Foundation is doing in the upcoming month, early 2022. Every year in December, I have a doctor's appointment. I do a regular, like a checkup, get my blood drawn and check my cholesterol and, that type of stuff. And so what I was thinking about is we need to do, as an individual, a financial checkup. We need to know where we're at. And that was something key that I saw that people were not doing. So I put together a list of things that people need to, especially if you're in the home purchasing process, home buying process, or just in general, you want to make sure that you check your credit. You need to know what's going on. Check your credit and see what's going on out there. There may be some things that you might want to dispute, that type of stuff. Another issue that I saw was taxes. People have liens and didn't even know it. And I share this with my clients all the time because you don't know until you're about to get to that closing table. Sometimes people have liens. If you don't pay taxes, or if you hadn't made a payment plan, they could put a lien towards you, and when they run your credit and your background, it shows up, and you're not going to be able to buy. So you want to make sure that you're taking care of those stuff. Student loan debt. Of course, we talked about we go into repayment in the month of May. They moved that. So now we think about, okay, we need to set up some type of payment plan, or try to get some type of income-based payment, so that, so that you're not overpaying or out of your budget. Create a budget for yourself and make sure that you have all those things aligned. And then last, try to figure out a way to create some type of savings for yourself, or some type of savings so that you could be able to put money back when you do purchase a home, because you don't know what's going to happen. And there's a lot of things that comes with purchasing a new home. So that's a conversation that the Twindo Foundation will be having in the upcoming year, the first of the year. But I want to put that knowledge out there. I want to give people those things so that they know how to move forward in life, period, even if they're not purchasing a home.
And I want to make sure, I'm glad. Thank you for saying all of that, because one, we need to have those conversations, and two, I do want to add, this is, y'all, we've got to also, I think because of our trauma, from historical trauma, that we were taught to be ashamed of money, in the sense of we don't talk about money amongst ourselves. And it hurts us because we don't talk about money. And I think it's because people, and I was someplace the other day at a Black Business Expo, and I said, as a community, we hear a lot about the Black community. We spend $1 trillion, consumers. Well, what we're not talking about is how much we're saving, how much we're investing, how much we're making. And that actually hurts us, because we don't, what we are, we've been, the systems that we are working within, capitalistic systems we are working in, have taught us to be consumers. Well, when you're a consumer, you're giving your money away, whether it's through gas, retail, food, etc. But we're not savers, we're not investors, we're not creating generational wealth. And I don't want to make this conversation about money, but our trauma impacts our relationship with money. And it manifests itself in the conversation you just talked about. And it's important that we start having a healthy conversation about money, because it does hold us back. Liens, and I'm not saying this from a place of perfection at all. Right. Liens, taxes, etc. We all credit. How many people realize credit is not for rich people? Credit is for low income, middle income people. And it's a system that's actually detrimental, but it was built so banks can make money off of middle income, low income people. Rich people do not need credit, nor would they want credit if you're rich, because most of the time you pay as you go. Now, it may be on a card, but people don't realize a credit card is a loan. So you buy what you buy, at the end of the month, you pay it off. You good. You don't have to pay interest. Most poor middle income people do not pay off cards. So you end up paying this interest. Now you're in debt. You're never out of the hole. Now you're creating something on your credit report, et cetera, et cetera. It literally is because we have an unhealthy relationship with money. We have a consumer mindset rather than a creator mindset. And what do I mean creator? A creator, when it comes to money, is an owner. If you own a business, you are then creating your money. You're not waiting to show up for your 40-hour-a-week job on paper, because usually we pay 60, 70 hours a week, $7.25 an hour, and somebody else is writing out a check. Right. Ownership, creator, is when you write the check. And I'm not saying everybody needs to be an owner, because we need workers also. We need people who have careers. What I'm saying is we need to have a healthier relationship with money, but it has to be manifested from that we are on a healthy journey as an individual.
Right.
And it's a journey, y'all. It's a process. I don't want everybody to wake up tomorrow morning going, oh, I'm not perfect. I'm not handling my money right, because we listen to Twanja and
I know.
and I'm still in debt to Thursday morning. No, it's not about that. It's about taking the step towards a healthy journey. And one thing I want to tell people, and I probably seem I'm random. I'm kind of all over the place right now, but this is the conversation we're having. Do not wait until perfection happens, because it will never come.
Right.
Get started, people. Just get started. Just say, today I'm going to take a mason jar and put $1 in it. That's all. Tomorrow I'm going to put another $1 in it. Now you're saving. And when I get to $30 or $50 or whatever, I'm going to go to the credit union, because the credit union, you don't need $100 in most credit unions to open a savings account. I'm going to go and put my $30 at the end of the month, at the end of 30 days in the bank. And then I'm going to start all over again. That $1 will go in the mason jar. Now you've started a healthier journey with money. And it does impact, eventually the bigger picture is your credit report. Because once you put that money in the savings account, maybe one day you could go to that savings account and you look at, I got $500 in the savings account. I'm going to take $200 of that and pay off a debt and get it off my credit report. That's just an example of getting started. Maybe getting started is reading a book, Becoming Healed, by a local author who's been through a journey, who's going through her own journey, but through her love of writing, is sharing her journey in the hopes that someone else takes the lesson and they implement it on their journey. So this whole big conversation that we're having, which is the best conversation to have at the end of 2021, because it's about becoming healed. What better time to reset this week, this day, to just say, I'm going to do one step. I'm just asking y'all to just do one step. I'm not asking you to wipe out your debt. I'm just asking you that one step is to get a jar, a container, and put $1 in that container. Then do it again tomorrow. I'm also asking you, when the book comes out, Becoming Healed, to go buy that book, because you might be saving that money to go buy that book, because that book is your investment in yourself. That's all I'm asking y'all to do, is put the $1 in the container, so when the book is released, you could go buy the book, because that book is an investment in yourself. See what I did there? All yes. Right. So I'm doing a lot of talking here, but Twanja, every time you come on, we have this type of conversation, and I love it, y'all. It makes my brain cells work. Yeah, right. I don't know about y'all, but I feel stretched. I feel that my brain has just been stretched, and then come back, because that knowledge is coming in from Miss Windley, and it just makes me a better person. It makes me, this is part of my journey, Twanja, we're coming towards the end. I want you to be the final voice of the show. And I've done enough talking, but you just really just have laid something on my spirit, as our folks would say. But give us some words. What do you want to say? What do you want to share with us?
Well, I do want to say I do appreciate you having me back on the show again. I receive all the love when I come and talk with you. So I want to say thank you. And also, if people would follow me on Instagram at I am Twanja or at Twindo Foundation, and also keep watching, because this year we're gonna have live conversations with people that repair credit. We have live conversations with tax attorneys that could help people to if they have taxes that they owe back in taxes, maybe they could help them to get those taxes, the number reduced, because she's been working with some of my clients as well too. I want to give people as much knowledge and information that I can, that could help them to get out of situation. And when I say that, we lack knowledge, it's because there's people out there that could help us, but we don't know. And I feel like anything that I've learned, I'm going to share it, because we don't have to live this life. It's time that the way that things are, the way that it is, we have to change our story. So I want to be able to help people in the best way that I can. Anything that I learn, I'm definitely gonna give it back.
Very good. And I'm glad to hear. I want to say thank you too, because every time you've come on, it really has been a moving experience for me. So I want to say thank you. Also, I was looking forward to you coming back on. I know I was looking forward to, because I said because I got such good feedback from the first show. And you're welcome to come back anytime. To the show, because that's why we're here, to have these conversations, to support each other, to share what we have learned on our journeys, to know that we offer a safe space, to know that you're not alone, to know that none of us are perfect.
Right. Absolutely.
That we are on this healthy journey, and we gonna make mistakes, but it's yin and yang. We may make mistakes, but we pick ourselves up and we keep going. We learn from those mistakes. Those are lessons learned. And thank you, Jackie, for hopping on. She's out there in our viewing audience, because we had some of this conversation at our lunch meeting, and she's working on some stuff, and I'm looking forward to her when she gets to her launch to bring her on to talk about her journey. Also, I just love to just bring folks on who are change makers impacting the Gullah community, and you are definitely one. And there's so many of us out here, and I'm just a resource to help get the word out. So It's always good to have you on and others on who stretch us, who give us knowledge. And you said that earlier, it's about gaining knowledge. And knowledge is not just found in a book. It is, yes, found in a book, but knowledge is found in just living life.
Right.
Wisdom is found through living life. And so many of us, I think, and I'm going to throw this out, y'all can get mad at me, but come back in 2022 and let's have that conversation too. Not enough of us are living life. We're just going through the motions.
That's pretty deep.
It is. We go to church, or we go to school, we go to work, and our eye is not really on living life. We're just getting through life. And I, for one, truly believe we were put on this earth for more than that.
Absolutely.
And I think what you're doing in your personal journey, Miss Twanja Windley, is that you are actually living life. And I get so excited. I get so excited when I meet folks like you who are just doing your thing. And it's helping people. It really is. It's just stretching all of us to hear from you. So I know I said you were going to give final words. So I'm going to shut up, and I want you to do one more final word to me. You got me going. So we can sit here. Girl, if we had some wine and some popcorn, we'd be here all that time.
I think that the biggest part for me, because there's this song, and it says, and I know that it says that my life is not my own. And of course we're saying, to God, to you I belong, and when I give myself away. And for me, what that means is that everything that God gives me or puts inside of me, it's for someone else. And that's what I do. So everything that God has put in my heart, or I desire to do, it's for his people. And that's my mission in life, is to make sure that whatever it is that God wants me to do, that I'm going to do it. And God, however you see fit for me to take care of your people, that's what I'm going to do. And so that's just how I live my life. Not selfishly, but to do whatever it is that God has called me to do, and to help whoever God has has placed on my heart to help. Even if those people have wronged me, I'm still going to help them. So, hey, I'm just living my life the way that God has planned for me.
You know, and that's grace. That's grace. Even those who wronged you, and people do that, that's grace. And it's because you've given yourself grace. So it's good to see that. And you can tell that. You know what our mothers used to tell us? That, you know, the ugly on the inside will come through on the outside. Eventually,
Yep.
y'all can't hide it. You cannot hide it, y'all. You can hide it for 20, 30 years, but eventually it will come out.
Yes.
You know? And we can see it in you that the beauty that's inside manifests itself on the outside. So I want to thank you, Twanja, Miss Twanja Windley of Windley Foundation and author of Becoming Healed, and look for it at her Windley Publications, Twindo Publications.com.
Publication.
Yeah. Soon, so you can purchase that book and of course support our authors that we bring on to A Gathering Place. I want to thank you for joining us today, our last day of 2021, our last episode of 2021. Yes. And I want to wish everyone a happy new year, happy holidays. Twanja, thank you for joining us today. I look forward to you coming back. Looking forward to seeing and watching your journey, and hopefully we'll continue to be involved in your journey.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome, and we'll see you later. Good night and happy holidays. Well, everyone, wasn't that exciting show? It certainly was. I am always moved when we have authors, change makers that are impacting our community come on, and Miss Twanja Windley is definitely one of those. What a beautiful spirit, what a beautiful woman. Always enjoy supporting. And I want to thank everybody for joining us in 2021. We had some fantastic guests all year long, and I'm looking forward to 2022 when we have more fantastic guests. And now just to run down the type of shows we're going to have in 2022, we will continue. Every second Wednesday will be our environmental and energy programming. We're inviting our environmental organizations and individuals to come on so we can learn about the work that they're doing in the environment and green renewable energy. There's a lot going out there, folks. Electric vehicles, electric vehicle stations. We want our community to be a part of that. So we need to get that knowledge. Every fourth Wednesday, we have public health awareness. We want to be emotionally, mentally, and physically healthy. St. James Health and Wellness, our huge sponsor for that. Every fourth Wednesday, public health awareness come on and listen every fourth Wednesday and learn about public health awareness and all the things that we need to be on a emotional, mental, and physical healthy journey. And of course, every third Sunday is Politics Talks with Marilyn Hemingway, myself, Jomar Brown, and Brandon Upson. We talk politics for an hour. And hopefully we just did our last one in December. We were together in person. We've been doing this for 2 years, folks. And it was the first chance we had to meet in person under COVID. And hopefully in 2022, we'll be able to do it in person again with special guests. We're working on some special guests who will join us in 2022. And of course, every Wednesday and Sunday at 4 p.m., join us on A Gathering Place just to meet the change makers impacting the Gullah community, what's going on in the community, because we may have challenges, but our solutions are always community-based. At the bottom of the screen is twindlefoundation.org. Please visit twindlefoundation.org and support Miss Twanja Windley in her efforts, because a beautiful story, a beautiful sister, and we always welcome her back. Thank you, everybody. Have happy holidays, and we will see you. Darlene, you are welcome for both of us. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on A Gathering Place. And I want to wish everybody a happy holiday, and we'll see you in 2022.